Good day, sir. My name is John Paul Benedict A. Cantiveros. I'm gonna report about the correction pillar, chapter 5. Okay, let's start. Okay, lesson 1. I'm gonna discuss about the introduction to correction. So, what is correction? Correction is refers to the treatment of offenders through a system of penal incarceration, rehabilitation, parole, and probation, or the administrative system by which these are effectuated. And it is also the name of a field of academic study concerned with the theories, policies, and excuse me, programs pertaining to the practice of corrections. Correction also is a branch of criminal justice system concerned which the custody, supervision, and rehabilitation of criminal offenders. It is also refers to a supervision of person arrested for conviction or convicted of or sentenced for making some criminal offenses. So, corrections, and correctional are the umbrella term describing a variety of functions typically carried out by the government agencies and involving the punishment treatments and supervisions of persons who have been victim of crimes. And also, correction is called penology, which means the study of punishment for crime. Next, we will gonna discuss about the penology. Penology is a subcomponent of criminology that deals with the philosophy and practice of various societies and their attempts to repress criminal activities and satisfy public opinion via appropriate treatment regime for persons convicted of crime offense. So, penology is a study of punishment of a crime. It also known as the study of correction. So, the Oxford English Dictionary defines penology as the study of the punishment of crime and prison punishment. So we have the foundation of penology. It is a punishment and rehabilitation. So we will first is the classical theory by Cesar Beccaria and Jeremy Bentham, and neoclassical theory, and third positive theory by Cesar Lombroso, Enrico Ferri, and Rafael Garofalo. So first theory we will gonna discuss about the classical theory by Cesar Beccaria and Jeremy Bentham. Um, Beccaria believed that torture and capital punishment should be eliminated. Punishment should prescribe and fixed in advance. Laws should be drafted and codified with clear and unambiguous language in order to prevent the subjective interpretation of the judgment. Fourth is penalties and sentences should be deterred rather than retributive. Fifth is secret accused violate the right of the defense and must be condemned and eliminated. So, Beccaria, I think, on my opinion, Beccaria believed that he wants the person who wants to commit a crime to be punished or should be eliminated or execute or retribute to avoid criminality in our nation, to less our criminality. So Beccaria exposed that the public trial principle to reduce the maltreatment of under trial, applying less harsh penalties merely that are essential for purpose of deterrence, elimination of capital punishment. Beccaria believed that every individual is responsible for his actions, and punishments must be proportional to the interests violated by the crime. He believed that punishment can be justified only because of its usefulness to or in preventing reoffering. So Beccaria exposed the the maltreatment of under trial is applying less harsh penalty. Then Beccaria believed that our us people has some individuals and responsibilities for our actions and punishment that proportional to the by interest violated by the crime. Next is the about Jeremy Bentham. One of the major principles of Jeremy Bentham approach was the justification of punishment upon its effectiveness of deterrence, which makes crime more costly by increasing penalty, as the same was claimed earlier by Plato. According to Bentham, human beings could be deterred from criminal activity through property, design, punishment, as their three elements of deterrence. So the three elements of deterrence is the severity, um, celerity, and certainly. In contrary to the classical approach of Bentham as fear, inaccurate information and morality that might be deformed, the classical point of hedonism. So hedonism means the pleasure and pain. Um, like Piccari in Italy, Bentham adopted the principle of gradation of punishments as the reformative measure. In sentence, penalty must exceed the possible advantages gained from the criminal activity, and it was also similar to Montesquieu perspectives. So, we are done for the classical theory. Now we are going to the second theory, that is called the neoclassical theory. So it's a theory admitted the principle of mitigating condition by which the offenses are committed under some circumstances, including self-defense, durance, or under the negation of actus reus and mens rea. So this theory defines the principal mitigation conditions. It only defines the condition of a person. So just like in a situation that there's a person wants to commit a crime on you. The person wants you to stop, but you accidentally and make your self-defense, but you actually the one who stabbed the person. So that is a criminal law, but less by the under the negation of actus reus and mens rea, the elements of criminal is responsibility. So actus reus is means of guilty deed or an act. Means it well known as a criminal conduct explicitly criminal intention or negligence or inaction that causes injury. Thus, there is no crime without an existence of actus reus and physical element or guilty that are required to be proved. So, it depends. Actus reus is defined as guilty or did or not act. But in a situation by the neoclassical theory, example that self-defense, if you prove that you are um, just um, doing a self-defense, you must to prove that you're not a guilty. of if it is you are intentionally you are the mens rea or guilty state of mind. It means the quality state of mind or criminal intent which known as the mental prospect. So this means that you are intently you are thinking mentally to a person that you want to commit a crime on him. In Tagalog, may balak. Okay? Then, may balak. So, the Neoclassical School of Penology made significant contribution to the issue of assessment of penalty as it laid down a equation of a quantum of punishment in accordance to the degree of responsibility for the committed offenses. Neoclassical School of Criminology admits and criminal condition and assumes that some reason or some persons such as minor, insane, and the intellectually imbeciles cannot reason. The contributions of neoclassical perspective to criminology and penal science can be summarized as the focus of the penal law and adopt of legal definition of crime. Punishment should fit the crime rather than the criminal. Adoption from the free will doctrine based on the assumption of similarity of criminal with other people and concerning about the uniformity of laws and punishment without explaining the criminal behavior. So, the last theory we're gonna discuss about the positive theory by Cesar Lombroso, Enrico Ferri, and Rafael Bentham. First is Cesare Lombroso. He was also advocate for the human treatment of criminals. He argued for the removal of born criminals from the society from their own and societal protection and rehabilitation that those not born criminals and was against a capital punishment. So in Enrico Ferri, he was emphasized that each criminals would receive different types of treatment on individual basis because the penalty itself aims to satisfy psychological and sociological needs. Therefore, the purpose of punishment is the criminal, not the crime. So next is about Rafael Garofalo. According to him, the natural criminal is a person who misses the essential altruistic sense of sympathy and honesty. He supposed that the natural offender is distinguished psychic or biological kind and that the altruistic defects were nature and hereditary. In general, the positive school refused the principles of null poema sine lege, or no punishment without a law. In contrary to classical approach, the positive approach advocate the punishment must befit the criminal rather than the time, as the treatment of criminal must be individualized and the society to be protected from those criminals. So we have here the chart about the theoretical foundation and its purpose of sentencing. First theoretical foundation is the classical. Its purpose of sentencing is first, freedom from cruel and unusual punishment. B. Prohibition of ex post facto laws. Third is punishment for deterrence and sentences are determined or fixed length. Second theoretical foundation is neoclassical. Its purpose of sentencing is first, punishment should fit the crime rather than the criminal. adoption of the free will doctrine based on an assumption of similarity of criminals with other people and concerning about the uniformity of laws and punishment without explaining the criminal behavior. And lastly, the mitigation of exceptional from punishment. Third theoretical foundation is um, positivist. Its purpose of sentencing is a treatment. First is treatment and reform. B. Humane treatment of criminals, and sentences are indeterminate. Then we have two forms of correction, or the first correction is the institution-based correction. Two, non-institutional correction, or the community-based correction. So first correction we will discuss about institutional based correction. It refers to a form of correction that is conducted or administered to prisoners or inmates while serving their sentences inside the prison jails facilities. Refers to facilities used to detain the persons who are the lawful custody to the government. It is an institution where the persons are confined, the punishment, and for the protection of the public. Second correction is the non-institutional based correction. It is also known as a community based correction. It is it is form of punishment or correction that keeps the offenders in the community and out of prison. Third is often used to synonymously about intermediate sanction. Non-institutional methods are treating offenders including probation, if it is minor or adults, suspended sentence, and parole or condition pardons. Um, we have three correctional departments. First is the Department of Justice, the DOJ. Two, Department of Interior and Local Government, or the DILG. Three, the Department of Social Welfare and Development, or the DSWD. First department, we were gonna discuss about the DOJ. So DOJ is a house, the Bureau of Correction of BUJUC, the BUJOC, Parole and Probation Administration, or PPA, and the Board of Pardons and Parole, or BPP. They are the House Bureau of Corrections. So second department is the Department of Interior and Local Government, or the DILG. They supervise the Bureau of Jail Management and Penology, or the BJMP, which runs the city, municipal, and district jails, and the provincial jails through their respective provincial governments. So they are the one who supervising on it. So third department is the Department of Social Welfare and Development, or the DSWD. It has Juvenile and Justice Welfare Council, which oversees the rehabilitation of young offenders through the Bureau of Child and Youth Welfare, established in the regional level. Regional Rehabilitation Center for the Youth, or the RRCY. So we have two categories of inmate. First is the prisoner, and second is the detainee. So the prisoner, it refers to an inmate who was convicted by the final judgment by a criminal court. And detainee, it is refers to an inmate who is undergoing investigation, trial, or waiting for the judgment to the criminal court. So we have a classification of prisoner. First is the insular prisoner. Second is the provisional prisoner. Then um, city prisoner and municipal prisoner. So the insular first is the insular prisoner. So insular prisoner, one of the one who is sentenced to a prison terms of 3 years and 1 day to reclusion, perpetua, and life imprisonment. The prisoner is under the supervision and under of the Bureau of Correction. So insular prisoner they are have only 3 and 1 day. Second is the provisional prisoner. They are the one who is sentenced to a prison term of 6 months and 1 day to 3 years. The prisoner is under the supervision and control of the Bureau and Bureau of Jail. City prisoner, they are the one who is sentenced to a prison term of 1 day to 3 years. The prisoner is under the supervision and control of the Bureau of Jail Management Penology. Lastly is the municipal prisoner. Um, Municipal prisoner is one who is sentenced to a prison term of 1 day to 6 months. The prisoner is under the supervision and control of the Bureau and Bureau of Jail of Management Penology. Um, Jail as a safekeeping facility. So, what is safekeeping? Many opinion of the jail is not safekeeping, but is like cage or unfree place of a people. But others say jail is a safekeeping facility. By the way, to know that what is safekeeping. So safekeeping refers to the temporary custody of person for his or her community where he or she comes from. And for the community where he or she comes from, usually those detainees are confined in jails for purposes of safekeeping. So they are the one who keeps persons in a temporary custody to stay in a jails. So we have a three classification of detainees. First is those undergoing investigation, those awaiting for undergoing trial, and those awaiting for final judgment. So what we will say detainees this they are the person are it is refers to a person that they are waiting for their final judgment of the criminal court. So we done discussing about the introduction of the correction. So we are gonna discuss about the lesson 2, the correction pillar and its relationship to CLJ or criminal justice system. So the Bureau of Correction or the BUCOR refers to receiving convict undertakes for reform two mandates: safekeeping and reformation of prisoner. So safekeeping it is refers to a custodian components of BUCOR's present correction system which ensure the public or including families of inmates and their victims that national inmates are provided their basic needs, completely incapacitated for further committing criminal acts, and have been totally cut off from their criminal networks or contacts in the free society. was serving sentence inside the premises of the National Penitentiary. Penitentiary. So safekeeping, they are the one who um, they are the one that makes the detainees or the prisoner to be safe, um, giving their some of their basic needs. They are the one to provide them, also from other inmates to make them safe. And next is the reformation. It refers to the rehabilitation components of the Bucharest present according to system, which ensures the public, including families of inmates and their victims, that the released national inmates are no longer harmful to the company by becoming reformed individuals prepared to live a normal and productive life upon reintegration to the mainstream society. By the way, this is they are the one who secure their um, relatives, or they are the one, or the inmate, they are the one, or it refers to a person that they are the released came to jails or prisons that are no longer harmful to the community, and they are prepared to live a normal life. So the reformation of the national inmates includes the following. So first is a moral and spiritual program, B education and training program, C work and livelihood program, D health and welfare program, and also behavior modification program to include therapeutic community. So the reformation program should be undertaken by the professional reformation personnel using consists of correction technical officers with ranking system and salary grade similar to correction officers. Um, Correction technical officers includes priests, evangelists, pastor, teachers, instructors, and so on and so forth that has a similar profession skill relevant to the implementation of inmates reformation programs. So those are the persons who implement to the inmates to reform a program to make them change to avoid criminality. To carry out this mandate, the Bureau undertakes the following. First is confined persons convicted by the court to serve a sentence in the national prisons. B or second, keep prisoners from the committing crimes while in custody. Third, provide humane treatment by supplying inmates basic needs. Implement various of rehabilitation program designed to change their pattern of criminal or antisocial behavior. Um, Fourth, engage in agro-industrial projects for the purpose of developing prison lands and resources into productive bases or profit centers, developing and employing inmate manpower skills and labor, providing prisoners with source of income and augmenting the Bureau's yearly appropriation. So we have a 7 operating correctional institution. So first is San Ramon Prison and Penal Farm, Iwaghig Prison and Penal Farm, Correctional Institution for Women, Davao Prison and Penal Farm, New Bilibid Prison, Sablayan Prison for Penal Farm, Leyte Regional Prison. So they are the rehabilitation centers. So B. Bureau of Jail Management and Penology. The BJMP through Republic Act 6975 has the following powers and function. The Jail Bureau shall exercise supervision and control over all city and municipal jails. The provincial jails shall be supervised and controlled by the provincial government with its jurisdiction, whose expenses shall be subsidized by the national government for not more government for not more than 3 years. The effectivity of this act. Similarity based on the BJMP Comprehensive Operation manually revised of 2025, and the BJMP has the following powers. So the BJMP experiences the supervision and control over all districts, cities, and municipal jails. As such, it shall ensure the establishment of secure, clean, adequately equipped sanitary facility and shall ensure the provision of quality services from the custody, safekeeping, rehabilitation, and development of district, city, and municipal inmates. Any fugitive from justice or person detained awaiting from undergoing investigation or trial and or um, transfer to the national penitentiary, and or violent mentally ill person who endangers him or herself or the safety of others are certain by the proper medical or health officer pending transfer to a medical institution. So what is reformation? What is rehabilitation? What is safekeeping? First is the reformation. Reformation based on the concept of BJMP means amending or providing by changing inmates' behavior or removing his or her faults or abuse, removing or correcting an abuse, wrong, or error. So the reformation, they are the one who make inmates to change behavior, um, removing her negative side that make his or her fault, abuse some people, to remove to and correct it to become a good person. So what is the rehabilitation? Rehabilitation based on the concept of BJMP means a program of activity direct to restore in inmates self-respect and abiding citizen after serving his or her sentence. So safekeeping based on the view of BJMP refers to the temporary custody of a person for his or her own protection from the community where he or she comes from and from the community where he or she comes from. So we have the functions of the BJMP. So first is to enhance and upgrade organizational capability on a regular basis, thus making all BJMP personnel updated and on all advancement in law enforcement, eventually resulting to a greater crime solution, efficiency, and decreased inmate population. To implement strong security measures for control for inmates. Third is to improve the basic needs of inmates. Fourth, to conduct activities from the rehabilitation and development of the inmates. And lastly, fifth function is to improve jail facilities and conditions. C. Regional Rehabilitation Center for the Youth. So RRCY is a 24-hour residential center for the rehabilitation for youth offenders aged below 18 years age whose sentences has been suspended. Okay, Cagayan Valley RRCY, as I mentioned above, there are 11 RRCY, hence this textbook represents a sample program activity of RRCY in Cagayan Valley. Then general objectives, it seeks to enhance the tradition residential care facilities and techniques in the rehabilitation of vulnerable youth and children in conflict with the law, or CICL. Specific objectives, it aims to economically and socially integrate the beneficiary into a mainstream livelihood, psychosocial and environmental development process. So, who are the clients served? Residential rehabilitation shall be limited to the youth who are committed by the court for rehabilitation due to the following circumstances. First is they have committed serious offenses, that they continue a threat to the community. Their life is threatened or at risk if placed in the community and nobody in the community can provide support for their rehabilitation. So next, programs and services. First is home life service or group, threatened interventions, support services and interventions. So now we have the general policies. First, admissions policies. Admissions to the RRCY is limited to a CICL age above 15 years old, below 18 years old. Old who are ordered by the court to undergo rehabilitation. Number 2, a CICL who are referred by the court or rehabilitation must present a commitment order issued by the committing court to the DSWT prior to admission. So next we have B, admission procedure. The admission officer, who is either the social worker or the house parent on duty, shall do the following. So the first procedure is to check the duly accomplishment or accomplished individual admission slip and court order. Second is to gather, validate from CICS company responsible and authorized adult. So they are the Bureau of Jail Management and Penology officers, local social welfare and development officers, and parents or relatives. Third procedure is upon admission, body research inspections and inventory of persons' belongings are conducted by the appropriate authority. Safekeeping valuable belongings of the CICL. Fifth, assign the CICL to a appropriate room or cottage based on the initial assessment and recommendation of the social worker. Sixth procedure is to intro the newly admitted CICL to the other staff and peers, make him comfortable and welcome. Seventh procedure is conduct orientation on the home policies, home rules, programs, and services. Eighth procedure is refers to admitted CICL to the medical service unit or a doctor for physical medical examination. And last is the ensure the immediate needs for the CICL, such as food, clothing, and other supplies for persons' care are provided. So we have the requirements for the admission. First requirement is to court order duly signed and dry sealed by the court that has jurisdiction over a case committing the youth to the center. Physical examination or certification used by the medical officer who conduct the examination on the youth immediate after arresting as provided for in Article 190 of PD. Social case study report prepared by the local DSWD social worker who handled the case during the pre-trial and dispositional hearings. A consent of parents for youth's medical examination or hospitalization while in care of rehabilitation center. And lastly is school records or permission to transfer school. So now we have case management. It's a process of enabling persons to mobilize a resource, internal and external, to achieve a desired outcome level, behavioral or environmental change. So we have steps in case management. First is intake and assessment. Intake interview is an initial diagnostic process undertaken by the social worker. Number 2 is formation for treatment plans. Third, implementation for treatment plans. Fourth, case conference. Fifth is case termination or discharge planning. Sixth is aftercare service. So we have done about the relationship between the corrections and the CLJ or the criminal justice system. Now, let's tackle about the non-constitutional correction. So this is our lesson 3. Oops. So non-institutional correction is defined previously is a form of punishment or correction that keeps the offender in community and out of prison, often used synonymously with intermediate sanction. So non-institutional method for treating offenders includes the first is probation or minor adult, suspended sentence, parole, and conditional pardon. First is probation. In criminal law, is a period of supervision over an offender ordered by the court instead or serving time in prison in some jurisdiction. The term probation is applied only to community sentence alternatives to incarceration, such as suspended sentence in others. Probation also includes supervision of those conditionally released from prison on parole. And probation is also termed as suspended sentence, but technically quite different from each other. We have two kinds of probation, the adult probation and minor probation. First, adult probation, it is refers to suspicion in the execution of the sentence imposed in the judgment as provided in the Presidential Decree 968 approved on July 24, 1976 as amended by Republic Act Number 10707 on November 26, 2015. Purpose of probation. First is promote the correction and rehabilitation of by providing him or with individualized treatment. Next is B, provide an opportunity for the formation of a penitent offender which might be less probable if he were to serve a prison sentence. C, prevent the commission of offenses. Next is B, minor probation. It refers to the concept provided by the Presidential Decree number 60603 or the Child and Youth Welfare Code, date dated on December 10, 1974, which was superseded the by the Republic Act number 9344, or the Justice and Welfare Act of 2006, approved on April 26, 2006, as amended by Republic Act number 10 or 10630, or the an act establishing a comprehensive juvenile justice and welfare system, creating the Juvenile Justice and Welfare Council under the Department of Social Welfare and Development, appropriating funds therefore and for the other purposes. Approved on October 3, 2013. Concepts for minor probation under the Republic Act number 9344. First is automatic suspension of sentence, discharge of the child in the conflicts with the law, return for the child in conflict the law of court. D is the credit in service of sentence, probation as alternative to imprisonment. So, first is automatic suspension of sentence. So, the child who is under 18 age at the time of the commission of the offenses is found guilty of the offenses charged. So the court shall be determined that a certain will civil liability which may have resulted from the offenses committed. B. Discharge of the child in conflict with the law. Upon the recommendation of the social worker who has the custody of the child, the court shall be dismiss the case against the child whose sentence has been suspended and against whom disposition measures have been issued, and shall order the final discharge of the child if it's find that the objective of the disposition measures has been fulfilled. Then C. Return of the child in conflict with the law to court. If the court finds that the objective of the disposition measures imposed, the child in conflict with law had been fulfilled, or if the child is conflict with the law has fully failed to comply with the conditions his or her disposition or rehabilitation program, the child in conflict with the law shall be brought before the court for execution of judgment. So, the credit in service of sentence. The child in conflict with the last shall be credited in the services of his or her sentence with full time spent in actual commitment and detention under this Republic Act number 9344. Last is the probation as an alternative to imprisonment. The court may, after it, should be convicted and sentence a child in conflict with the law upon application at any time. Place the child on probation in leave of service of his or her sentence, taking into the best interest of the child. Second is parole. It refers to the condition release of a person convicted of a crime prior of expiration of a person's term of imprisonment, subject to both and supervision of the correction authorities during the remainder of the term, and resumption of the imprisonment upon violation of the conditions. It also refers to the release of conviction criminal defendant after he or she has completed part of his or her prison sentence, based on the concept that during the period of parole the released criminal can be proved he or she is rehabilitated and can be made good in the society. So parole in the country is provided in for by Republic Act number 4103, Republic Act number 4225, Republic Act number 4203. So 3 is the conditional pardon. Um, it refers to the exemptional of the individual within certain limits or condition of the punishment which the law inflicts for the offenses he had committed, resulting in the partial extinction of the criminal liability. So we have question here: when could the prisoner be granted a conditional pardon, and what is the executive clemency? So first, in the first question is what when could a prisoner be granted as a conditional pardon? So a prisoner could be granted conditional pardon if he or she have served um, at least one half of the minimum of his or her original indeterminate and or defined sentence. However, in the case of a person who is convicted for heinous crime as defined as Republic Act number 7659 and other special laws, he or she shall have served at least one half of the maximum of the original determinate sentence before he or her case may be reviewed for conditional pardon. For the question, what is executive clemency? Executive clemency, it refers to the power of a president of the Philippines to pardon, absolute or conditional, a person convicted of a crime, commute a sentence, delay temporarily an execution of sentence, or approve or grant amnesty. So we are done about the lesson 3. So let's go for the lesson 4. Restorative justice. Restorative justice is a process through the which remorseful offenders accept responsibility for their misconduct particular to their victims and to the community. It creates obligation to make things right through the proactive involvement of victims, ownership of the offender of crime, and community in search for solution which promote repair, reconciliation, and reinsurance. We have a example of restorative justice. First is mediating, second is conferencing, third is sentencing or supporting circle, and the like. So what is restorative outcome? So the restorative outcome is the agreement obtained as the product of a restorative justice process. It includes A. Restitution, B. Community work service, and any other program or response designed to accomplish reparation of the victim and reintegration of the victims and or offenders. How was restoration justice adopted in the Philippines? The Commission on Crime Prevention and Criminal Justice, of which the Philippines is a member country, through a draft solution recommended to the Economic and Social Council of the United Nations Organization, or the UNO, the adoption of the basic principles on the use of the restorative justice programs in criminal matters. So what is agency adopted in concept of restorative justice? So the Parole and Probation Administration or PPA adopted the restorative justice as one of its rehabilitation program which utilize restorative processes and aims to achieve restorative outcomes and effects of restorative justice as a rehabilitation program of PPA or the Parole and Probation Administration. First is reintegration of the offenders to the social mainstream and encouraging them to assume active responsibility for the injuries inflicted to the victims. Um, 2. Proactive involvement of the community to support and assist in the rehabilitation of just victims and the offenders. Third, attention to the needs of the victims, survivors, and other persons system rather than mere object or passive recipient of services of intervention that may be unwarranted, inappropriate, or ineffective. Fourth, healing the effects of the crime or overdoing suffered by prospective stakeholders. And last is the prevention of um, further commission of crime and delinquency. PPA's implementations of restoration justice is the first during the investigation stage and during the supervision stage. So restorative justice model that can be applied to PPA. Applied. So what is peacemaking encounter? It is community-based gathered brings the victim victim or the victimized community and other offenders together rather. As a community-based decision model, the agency peacemaking encounter is being implemented through the following processes. First is committing of offender mediation, conferencing, and circles of supporting. First is the victim offender mediation. So it is a process that provides the interest victim an opportunity to meet face to face with his or her offender in a secure and structured setting or atmosphere with the help of a trainee mediator and engage in a discussion of the past offense and its impact to his or her life. So, second is conferencing. It it is a process of which involves a community of people that are mostly affected by the crime. The victim and the offender and their families are affected community members and trained facilitators and community strength in a restorative discussion of issues and problems arising from an offense or coincidence which affects the community relationship and tranquility. And last is a circle of support. It is a community direct process organized by the people offense and participated in by client, the volunteer probation aides or the VPAs, and selected members of the community in the discussion of the offense and its impact. So now We have outcomes of the intervention which can be agreed upon during the restorative justice process. So first is the restitution, and B, community work service. So in community work service, it is application. The offender can be subject to perform work service measures including but not limited to any following. So first, in the community work service, we have mentoring and intergenerational service. Second is economic development. Third is citizenship and civic participation. Fourth is helping the disadvantaged. And lastly, fifth, crime prevention project. So the continuation of for the outcomes is we have letter C, counseling, whether individual or group of family. D, attendance to trainings and seminars and lecture. E, participation in education, vocation or life skill program. F, group therapy season. G, spiritual development season or faith-based season. H, submission to psychological and psychiatric assessment. I, submission to drug test or drug dependency examination. J, attendance to skill training, livelihood assistance program. K, written or oral apology. M, submission to family therapy season. And lastly is confinement in a drug treatment rehabilitation center including aftercare. So this is the end of the slide, and I hope you enjoy my presentation and have a good day.